Today I'm testing out all the science that I learned in an attempt to make the perfect omelette. I'm going to start out by cutting up my baby portobello mushrooms for the filling. The reason I chose mushrooms is because of their umami flavor, which basically gives it this meaty, earthy taste. The key to any recipe is to have depth in flavor. I'm gonna be cutting them thin and roughly the same size so they cook for less time and more evenly. Sun-dried tomatoes are gonna add sweetness. I also believe that they just taste really good when they're combined with spinach and goat cheese. Spinach really just tastes like a leaf, but it still tastes pretty good. So I'm gonna add it so it gives a little bit of freshness to the dish. And remember to cut up the spinach so that you don't struggle with that awkward long strand. I'm gonna give my pan a little spray and add my mushrooms. Since I wanna get some nice caramelization on this, I'm gonna keep them as spread apart as possible because of the Maillard reaction. Honestly, maybe a lot of people already know the Maillard reaction, but I think I'm gonna explain it anyways. So the Maillard reaction is when a protein is heated and the amino acids and sugars react, and they release these really gorgeous smells with umami and sweetness, as well as they have brown contact surfaces. To get the best out of it, I'm gonna separate them so that the water release hits the pan and evaporates rapidly. So I'm dropping all of my ingredients into the pan and I'm gonna combine it with my tangy goat cheese. Whenever you feel like flavor is missing from your food, usually an acid like vinegar or limes usually does the trick for me, or any food that's relatively acidic. 3 eggs should be enough for this recipe, and I'm adding a pinch of salt 10 minutes before cooking. You know, someone once told me that adding salt to eggs before cooking them makes them tougher, but take that Tori, it's not true. Adding salt before denatures your proteins, converting them from coiled little spaghettis into looser ones. You're basically helping the heat break down the proteins and making a nice, cleaner mesh. This leads to softer and fluffier eggs. I'm gonna whisk my eggs and then add them to a strainer. This gets rid of the white thing that's apparently called the chalazia, and any other inconsistencies. Give your pan a layer of butter to prevent it from sticking. This was ultimately my demise, but I mean, what can you do? Maintain a low heat and swirl around the mixture while moving your pan frontwards and backwards. You're gonna feel kind of ridiculous, but you get used to it. Eggs are very delicate, so you wanna keep the heat to the lowest. And this also means that it's gonna take a while before it really gets to a consistency where you can really make the omelette. Scrape down the sides and keep doing it until it's thicker and it looks kind of like a pudding. Now, maintaining it at a low heat, I'm gonna start spreading it out into an omelette shape. I have to be careful for my eggs not to overcook, even if they're on low heat. So if you feel like they're overcooking, get them out of the fire and then put them back on. So I'm gonna start spreading out my filling and rolling it up. This is the part where my trust for my pan completely fell apart. So I'm gonna start by tilting my pan sideways so that the omelette rolls onto itself. But since it's getting stuck, well, then it kinda didn't. After plopping it onto a dish, I'm gonna use a towel to organize it in a nicer way. I'm gonna add a little bit of butter for that sheen, a little bit of cilantro so it looks a little bit nicer, and I'm also gonna add some paprika, which could have been a mistake because now it looks like an elote. But honestly, in the end, this was a pretty good omelette. It was creamy, soft, eggy, but not like overcooked eggy. The filling was sweet, umami, fresh, creamy, tangy. I guess I did make a couple mistakes. You know, there are some holes in the omelette, and I don't know if the paprika was the best idea in itself. But overall, I think it went great. The science was sound, and I think the only mistake that I made was buying the wrong saucepan. And it's probably the best omelet that I've ever made.